We do begin here on your specialty, the campaign trail, with just 23 days to go before Election Day. Former President Trump in Arizona today, Vice President Harris in North Carolina, and that is where we find ABC's Mary Alice Parks this morning. Good morning, Mary Alice.
Yeah, Gio, good morning. This is the second time Vice President Harris has been to North Carolina since the state was hit hard by Hurricane Helene. The impacts of that storm could be a real wild card in this race. And she made some news yesterday, releasing her medical records and calling out former President Trump for not doing the same. Vice President Kamala Harris overnight packing supplies with volunteers in North Carolina for those in the state impacted by Hurricane Helene. And meeting with Black community leaders she hopes will rally support for her campaign.
Not yet, my dear.
This weekend, the vice president also releasing her medical records, including details about her allergies, her vision, and her family's medical history, including maternal history for colon cancer. The signed letter from her physician concluding she's in, quote, excellent health, ending she possesses the physical and mental resilience required to successfully execute the duties of the presidency. 20 years younger than her opponent, Harris calling out former President Trump for not being as transparent.
It is clear to me that he and his team do not want the American people to really see what it is that he is doing and whether or not he actually is fit to do the job of being president of the United States.
Harris pointing out, too, that he also would not agree to debate her again. Trump's communication director pushing back, writing that he has maintained an extremely busy and active campaign schedule. But his team has not released any medical records recently, not even from the medical team that treated him after the assassination attempt in Pennsylvania in July. Trump this weekend barnstorming western states with back-to-back events in Nevada and even in Harris's hometown of California overnight, threatening that if elected, he would withhold federal disaster aid to the Democratic state unless they adopted policies he liked.
If you don't do it, we're not giving you any of that fire money that we send you all the time for all the forest fires that you have.
Trump also claimed the country had been invaded and with increasingly violent language falsely casted all immigrants as hardened criminals.
Our criminals are considered extremely nice by comparison to the people that we see. They'll cut your throat and the next morning they won't even remember. This is what they do.
Now, those comments from former President Trump about disaster aid obviously coming as there's been so much conversation about getting relief to those impacted by those back-to-back storms. The White House has been calling Trump out for what it says is spreading false misinformation. And look, we are just over 3 weeks until Election Day, but early voting has already started in many states, and it starts here in North Carolina on Thursday. Janae?
All right, just over 3 weeks to go. Mary Alice, thank you so much. And of course, part of why it's a joy to have Rachel here is because she is out on the country, so all around the country with the campaigns, traveling with them. Rachel, we have a new ABC News Ipsos poll out this morning. What are some of the key takeaways?
Yeah, Janae, Gio, this race was close. It is even closer in the final stretch. Now just 2 points separating Vice President Kamala Harris from former President Donald Trump. Harris still has the edge in this race, but when we last did this poll in September, she was ahead by 5. So Donald Trump really closing that gap. It is a dead heat in this final stretch. We know that the candidates each have their core issues, right? So for Donald Trump, it's immigration. For Vice President Kamala Harris, it is abortion rights. But now we're getting a snapshot on where voters stand on these issues with just about 3 weeks to go. So 56% of Americans now favor deporting all undocumented immigrants. That's up 20 points from 8 years ago. Trump's still leading on immigration. Then on abortion rights, Harris does have the edge on this critical issue, but that same number again, 56% saying the federal government should restore access to abortion to what it was before the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade. And look, you mentioned it. I've been out all across this country, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Colorado. The number one issue I hear from voters is the economy. And Trump still has the edge on this key issue. Harris has to make some more inroads in this final stretch on that.
And that's because it affects everyone, all the families at home when they open their refrigerator, all of those things. Rachel, thank you so much. It is a joy to have you here. And tune in to This Week later. Martha Raddatz goes one-on-one with Republican vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance with just 23 days to Election Day. Plus, Martha speaks with Kentucky's Democratic Governor Andy Beshear about the state of Kamala Harris's campaign.